Well, here comes our sponsor for the day.
Yes, right?
Cisco.
Cisco Foods.
keeping the world fed.
Yep.
That's exactly right. We'll shut that thing down in a minute.
You can only beep so long.
Yeah.
That's right.
The joys of recording in
Yeah.
the middle of nowhere where we can't go
Exactly.
inside. So,
Yeah. We can't control it. It's all good.
It's all good.
Welcome to Guys Fishing Weekly. We don't just fish, we hug.
Hey, buddy.
What's up, Eddie?
What's going on, man?
All right, dude.
Back in the saddle. Back from our big trip.
How's it feel being back in the saddle?
Well, that's my navigation this week. Because it is a navigating task to get back into the saddle and stay focused, really. I mean, that's the main issue is you get back, there's things to do around the house, there's all that stuff. Keeping focus on the tasks at hand, difficult.
We always refer to that in our household as re-entry. You know, you leave, you get to have this kind of escape. And we were gone for quite a while. We were gone 8 days. You were a little bit longer. You had a couple extra days on either end. But I was gone Saturday to Saturday, dude. That's a long time to be gone. So, yeah, when you get back, there's that re-entry period. Like you say, getting back in the saddle. And, yeah, dude, it's hard, you know, to get back in and start doing those things again in your normalcy and work and, you know. Yeah, it's not easy.
For sure. But it's also my celebration because I feel extremely rejuvenated after that trip. I mean, it was an awesome trip. I can't even begin to describe how cool it was to see that part of Wyoming and all the places that we fished and the fish that we caught. It was a great trip.
Unbelievable. Usually cutthroats around here are the ones that are kind of the ghost fish that you're always looking to find and seek out to get the slam. Up there, it's just cutty after cutty after cutty, which was
Right.
fantastic. It was fun catching, cutthroats. So it was for sure such a great trip. Memories, but the scenery that we were in was amazing. It was incredible stuff.
No doubt. The Tetons never let you down. It's crazy when you drive through any valley looking at the Tetons, you're just like, whoa.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah, that was totally cool. So we found some good stuff, man. We found some creeks and some really cool places to fish. That was amazing. So, with the help of some people along the way, it was a great, phenomenal trip. Dude, we did a podcast on Yellowstone Lake, like outside.
Right.
That was awesome. We've had some good experiences. So
pretty awesome. It was a great trip. Like you said, cutty after cutty, the occasional brook trout, I mean, we didn't even get into rainbow and brown water, which there is up there, but like,
right.
It was kind of crazy how it was just cutties everywhere and big cutties.
Right. Golly. Yeah, we got into some really nice fish, which was fantastic. Big brook trout too. Let's don't forget that.
That's true. That was a big brookie.
That was a big brookie on a tiny little creek up. So it was cool. It was awesome. We were on some pretty cool roads and it was gnarly and it was great. So.
Well, we'll be posting that itinerary that we did and a whole follow-up feedback on our website and ultimately in our membership area. So keep an eye out for that. I know we've already passed it along to one of our listeners and followers, and he's out there having a great time fishing right now, sending us pictures and videos. It's like he's loving it.
Thanks for the intel, boys. Yeah, absolutely.
So
that's what we
looking forward to getting that up and out for everybody to use and get out and have their own amazing adventure. So,
Indeed.
well, I stole the celebrations and navigating. Why don't you tell me what you're celebrating this week?
I am celebrating my anniversary. My wife
Congrats.
and I have an anniversary coming up, 24 years. It's easy for me to count because we got married in 2000, so that's good.
That is good.
Makes
In
makes
any
the
way that
counting
you
of
can make it
numbers.
easier.
That's exactly right. 24 years, yeah. So that's pretty cool. I got that coming up this week. I get to celebrate, my relationship with my wife. So it's pretty
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
Do you and your wife have like a don't talk about it until the day of and like see who can surprise the other one with it?
No.
No.
We typically, we put most of everything into our children, and we don't do enough for each other. And so, typically in the past, we haven't done much. So we're trying to make that actually more of a priority for us. Is let's go do some. Let's take some time for us. So yeah, so we're gonna try to do something. We've been talking about maybe getting up and going hiking, doing something cool. Go up but it's incredibly hot here and there's some nasty fires burning, so air quality's bad. So I'm like, all right, so we either have to go up high early in the morning or we have to do something inside in air conditioning. That's really our option. So I don't know what we're gonna do yet, but
You could be a volunteer firefighter.
yeah, I can't even imagine in this heat battling fire. It's got to be insane for those dudes.
No
I'm so
doubt.
grateful that there are people to be able to do that. I'd probably be better off being a water boy for them than stay and get it, because otherwise I'd probably just get in their way. Hey, want me to squirt this over here? Yeah, I'd be an idiot up there. So anyway, so that's what I'm celebrating. Pretty psyched.
It's a good celebration.
Yeah.
What are you navigating?
Navigating. We are preparing to send my son off to college. And so I'm navigating all of that goes into that with we have to get vaccinations right. We have to get all that stuff before he moves into the dorm. We have to get his medical records. We have to do, we're piling. The pile in the living room is growing of bins and clothes bags and all the stuff that he's going to take with him. And then there's the mental preparation of my only son being gone on the daily. And so that piece of it is in the back of my mind also, that I know there's this sad moment. It's interesting because it's exciting to watch him, expand and go and fly the coop, but there's also this heartbreaking emptiness that comes when one of your kids leaves the nest and you're used to seeing him. I mean, for 18 years, every day I've seen him, and so it's hard to when that goes away. You know what I mean? So yeah, so I'm like kind of that dread and that clouds in the back of my mind too. So I know that day is coming, but so the navigation of this process of him leaving the homestead, that's what we're working on. He just bought a car, so I'm trying to help him out with a bunch of stuff with that and understand and show him stuff before he leaves. So yeah, just kind of stuff like that. So
those are all big life changes.
Yeah, for sure.
For all parties involved.
Yeah. So it'll be good though. It'll be good.
He's not too far away, so you can always get back in each other's good graces.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, he won't be too far, so it's good. And it's one of those necessary things, right? He's got to go be on his own, but I certainly will miss his presence in my life on the daily. So, and we're the kind of parents, I don't try. I like when my daughter left, we didn't, text every day or call him every day. I want to give him his space to go and be and forge his own path. And, so there is that emptiness that comes with not having contact with him daily. So I got to prep myself for that. That never gets easy.
No.
Necessary evils of life.
Yep.
So.
Well, a couple of housekeeping items before we hop into this. We've opened a new email for people to reach out to us and give us some feedback, give us questions or comments about what they want us to talk about. We'll open up the mailbag here on the regular as we get more and more comments and questions that come in. But the email is just mailbag@guysfishingweekend.com. So send over anything that you want us to talk about, any questions you have, anything like that, and we'll make sure to talk about on the show. Also, we love the way the show is growing right now. It would really be helpful if you would go and like and comment on your favorite podcast listening app, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it. It really helps us get seen and grow the show. So if you would like and comment and share any episodes that you like with a friend, that will be great for helping us continue to grow and get the message out and help other men find their adventure. So that would be a huge help. Today on the show, we have Coltin Gresser of the Degenerate Fish Hippies, a group of guides who met while guiding in Yellowstone National Park and realized that fishing, hunting, and other nefarious activities were what made living fun. We talk about topics including being a kid again and the importance of never losing that skill, the science of biology and fishing, dream trips in Yellowstone National Park, and so much more. Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Hey, Colton, how are you?
Good, how are you guys?
Good, man. Welcome to the show. Good to have you.
Thank you, I'm glad to be here.
Right on. We're in beautiful Yellowstone National Park. This is amazing.
Indeed, yep. It was, it's basically like my second summer home here. I absolutely love it. You know, you're fishing before work, after work, and even on your off days, so it's great. It's great.
That's
time.
awesome.
That's
you're right
amazing.
here on Yellowstone Lake.
Yep, so Yellowstone Lake is actually, it's pretty cool. It's the highest elevation lake in the lower 48, and it is sitting at 7,792, 93 foot of elevation. So it's pretty cool.
Right
And
on.
what's the definition of lake that makes it?
So it is a definition of lake because it is naturally filled with rain or underwater ground sources as well. A couple of the park biologists had actually come through here with underwater drones to see the underwater spires that are emitting hot water and fumes and steam from underneath coming up and above. So it's pretty cool.
Wild.
So
So how did you end up getting out here?
So my college, I graduated from Ball State University, which is central Indiana. I'm Indiana born. And so my professor actually had talked to us and was like, hey, you know, we got a position out in Yellowstone for a summer. And this was my sophomore year. And I was stoked about it, you know. I'm like, Yellowstone's like just the mecca of the outdoor world, you know,
Yeah.
like, and especially fly fishing as well. So I went to go apply, and sadly you had to be 21, and I was 20 at the time.
Okay.
So I'm not kidding you. Day and night, I dogged this position. I was like checking, make sure it was like, you know, for the next year it was open and where it was going to be and blah, blah, blah. Like I was a addict of trying to get out here. And my junior year, the same position reapplied. And so I threw my application out there, and our assistant director for my program, which is YSERP, Yellowstone Employee Co-op, or Yellowstone's Co-op Employee Recreation Program is our title. And so she actually graduated from Ball State University as well. So I got on the you know, Zoom in the interview that we had, and it was like just like we reconnected. You know, we were talking about the same professors,
Yeah.
the same classes, and you know, like, oh my God, the nights of study until 4 in the morning for our exams and blah blah blah. It was great. So that's kind of how I got the position out here.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about you're starting a new company. You're trying with some of your buddies. Talk a little bit about your company name, how that came about, and what you guys are doing and what your mission's all about.
Of course. So we started the Degenerate Fish Hippies is our name. And when people hear it, all the moms of our group were like, really, does it have to be Degenerate? Why can't you just name it something else? Like just Fish Hippie. And I'm like, well, that's already taken, first off.
Right.
And second off, we add a little bit of the degenerate side to things because we just love being young. Of course, you know, like we always feel that as people get older, they tend to stray away from childhood, you know, how children think and how they act as kids. But sometimes, of course, we need to find that line. Like, you need to act adultish, you need to act, you know, young again. But it's always good. Life's too short.
Yeah.
It's always good to be a kid sometimes, you know, and think like a kid. So we're trying to bring the Degenerate name a little in better light, not so,
Right.
you know, crappy in a sense. But that's why how I got our name. Our buddy Joel, which started the name, just texted the group chat one day and was like, y'all ever heard of a degenerate fish hippie? And we're like, what the heck is a degenerate fish hippie? And we started laughing and hooting and hollering, and all of a sudden he's like, what if we make our own company out of it? And we're like, dude, we actually probably could do it. So sure as heck, we're here. We just started November of last year. So we're coming close up to the year anniversary of our creation. And kind of basically what we do and what our mission is at Degenerate Fish Hippies is anybody who's interested in the outdoors. So it could be fishing, hiking, hunting, camping, trapping, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, we're here to give you guys content, information-based, and also the gear we use. And the really selling point we're trying to do is you could fish, you could hunt, you could trap off of a low to medium budget, and you could still produce excellent game and excellent fish from that. You don't need to go buy the highest gear. Now, if you got the money to go do it and you want to go do it, Sims is great. I'm not gonna lie, I love some gear too, but you don't need that stuff. You know, you could start out with the basics of basics and still catch fish and still hunt big game. So we're just here. We know the struggle of being, you know, broke. A poor college student myself, you know, got so much debt on me right now, but I know the struggle of everybody, and you know, everybody has their own different life and their different struggles, but we're here to be like, hey, come fishing, come hunting, because guess what? It's one of the best activities you could do.
Right.
So.
Right.
Like, yeah, I mean, getting outdoors and being a kid, that's one of the things we always talk about is, you know, being a kid again. It's crazy. You know, I'm 36 now, and you're a kid until you get sucked into the world of like corporate life or just being in life. And you know, I see my 3-year-old daughter now playing and being a kid, and just the wonder that she sees of like everything. I can just only imagine what she'd think of every little flower and bug around here. And I just aspire now to like get back to being a kid like her. It's just, you lose it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Even as, you know, the elder statesman of this whole thing, it is, you know, one of the things that I've held on to for so long, you know, is that side. And I guess that's why, you know, being a middle school teacher for 25 years was, you know, I was good at it because of that. You know, I was able to be an adult when I needed to and be able to be a kid with them when I needed to. And so that balance is huge. And I think that, you know, for me, fishing certainly is one of those times when, you know, and we experienced it yesterday, catching, you know, little brookies, but in one of the most beautiful places I've ever fished. We're hooting and hollering and laughing and joking, and you know, as these little fish are hitting your fly and jumping over it, and it was an amazing time. But I think that's such a cool thing that you guys are doing, because it is. I mean, yeah, you're young, but hanging on to that and keeping that kind of that fresh young wonderment and idea about things is it's great. And even as an old adult, I need to get to that, because I can get hung up in parenting and doing all those things, and you know, making sure everybody's okay and protecting and doing those things for your family. But gosh, we need to be kids.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm all about
you know,
that.
and
Great.
I'm all about being serious too. You know, like coming from a biology, wildlife background, of course, like some of the studies we do need to be serious. But at the same time too, like, just be free. You know, like be serious when you gotta be serious, but also be a kid when you gotta be a kid.
Right.
And you mentioned a great point of beautiful places, and it's one thing I love about the DFH is that we are from 4 different states. So I encompass Indiana and the Midwest usually is where I do most of my hunting and fishing. Joel, he is from Virginia, so he's got kind of, you know, those little bit states down there. Rod's from the South, he's from Alabama, so he's got the coast and all the southern states pretty covered. And Connor, he's from Maine, and so he's got the Northeast pretty covered off. And when you hear about Maine, that's what Maine is. It's all about fishing and hunting, and so him and his family do very well. They have some very, very cool stories and content that we can't wait to share with the DFH and with you guys as well, with collaborations hopefully in the future. So
Right on.
Yeah.
Colton, give us a little background about you, like wildlife biology, all that stuff. How did you get into that? How did that become of interest for you in college?
Great question. So I was raised in it, basically. I was very fortunate with my family. My mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, everybody hunts and fishes. But the core memory that I remember as a kid was my grandparents. They live in northwestern Indiana, but just kind of south, about an hour and a half south of Lake Michigan, maybe a little more. And it's rural Indiana, so it's cornfields and ag ditches like no other. And so Sugar Creek actually flows through used to flow through their property they owned. And I remember as a little kid, man, I'd go out there and go in the creek and pick up crawfish and see river chubs and see stoneflies and mayflies and all these other, aquatic and macrovertebrates. And I'd see, all these other types of different fish, but I wouldn't see some fish here and I would see some fish there. And I'm like, why is that? Like, why? And I was always such a curious child when it came to the outdoors. I got pictures of me. I was tall as the beans. Beanstalks were taller than I was. The soybeans were, and it's like, that's what my mom took me out my first time hunting when I was 9 months old. And everybody was like, oh, that baby's going to get sick in the cold and all that. He's not going to love it because you started him at too young of an age. And now look at me, I'm addicted. Like, it is the pure addiction of the outdoors is what I have. And so that's what brought me into my wildlife studies. I also worked as a fish biologist intern in the state of Indiana, central Indiana, the Bureau of Water Quality. We worked at the...
Is there, my wife's in medicine, and I find that, like, the cardiologists don't talk to the pulmonologists, don't talk to the urologists, right? But, like, all those systems work together. I'm assuming it's the same way in wildlife. Like, wildlife and fish work hand in hand in a way, but they seem, like you just described them, seem to be kind of studied in different ways. Is there like a unifying science, like a fish wildlife?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love it too, because you nailed that right on the head. I mean, you couldn't have said it any better. Like, we all as biologists want to make wilderness and ecosystems a better place.
Yeah.
But we all have our own specialized field of studies. And so when you come into there, and even in the fish world, like, let's go, ichthyologist, for example. Like, you have non-game and game. That is two whole separate branches that barely kind of talk to each other. But when you have an aquatic ecosystem restoration program happening or a project happening, bring them all together because we got to fix this tributary. And guess what? We both of my species, or your species and my species, live in the same, tributary. So guess what? We're going to be in this together.
Yeah.
So it's really... habitat work is really what brings these biologists together, and especially too, me personally, I look at the outdoors as a full intact ecosystem, more of a holistic approach, because it's truly what it is. I mean, if you look back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, National Park Service had a predator eradication program that they would literally set out aluminum sulfide. And its M44s was the trap they used, and it's a sensor trap. So when these animals would come over it, it'd poof out the poison in their face, and eventually they'd inhale it and they'd pass away. But biologists didn't realize that it was designed for coyotes and wolves, but porcupines, raccoons, possums, deer, bear, it didn't matter what it was. Any animal that came near that trap would sensor it off and break it away. Biologists at that time were really looking at more species. They weren't looking at it as a whole picture. They thought that we could take out predators. They thought that we could take out the coyote and the wolf especially, and mountain lions and bears, and we would still have the great nature of what we have today. But in all reality, that's just not the case. Like, we need everything because it's all a big circle. When you start taking pieces out of the circle and the wheel doesn't turn as well as it
looks like a square.
Yeah. Yeah, square wheel, exactly. Like, what it used to be was a square, and it doesn't really rotate very well.
Yeah.
So
more like an octagon.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Yeah. See, I'm decent with the outdoor world, but once you start getting geometry and all that,
sorry.
I'm like,
come on,
he's
Ed.
the same way. He does words but no
I was an
numbers.
English teacher,
So-
yeah, yep, exactly.
No math.
But yep, so that's kind of a little bit of the background and kind of what I think about the outdoors a little bit.
Right on.
Yeah. Well, I think it's and shifting gears a little bit. I think going back to where all of the guys of Degenerate Fish Hippies are located, I think it'd be cool to hear how you guys met up, and how you guys created your little community together of
Degenerate
Fish
yeah,
Hippies.
yeah, exactly. So that's a great question. Actually, if we were to look around, the pub is right up there.
Okay.
The Lake Pub, Employee Pub. And
Nice.
so that's where the meeting of the minds always happens. So some say. So I met Connor first, the guy from Maine, and I met him through another buddy of ours, Diego. And so Diego's like, dude, you got to meet this one guy, man. Like, Connor, he's a wizard with a fly rod. I mean, he makes it look easy. Yeah. And in my head, there's always a stigmatism when you start talking about like fishermen and huntermen, or hunters, because it's like, You know, like, how good really is he, you know?
Right.
And I got talking to him. We started sharing stories and pictures and videos. And I'm like, man, he knows what he's talking about. And so I went out fishing with him for the first time. And there's no joke. That kid's a wizard with the fly rod. I've never seen anybody better. It's in his blood. I mean, the kid is a 4th generation fly fishing guide. You know, his great grandpa started fly fishing guide up in Maine, and he's since carried on this tradition. And no joke, that kid was probably born with a fly rod in his hand. We always make the joke with Connor, he's allergic to fish and beer. And we're like, what a poor fool you are, because that is like every fisherman's dream is fish and beer, right? And so we always make the joke, he traded fish and beer for being one of the best fly fishing guides I've ever known with the devil. So, you know, like he's done that trade with him. So that's Connor, that's how I met him.
Okay.
And then he was like, hey, I got to introduce you to my 2 other guys, because they were all 3 of them were buddies. They had been in a group together. They'd been here for years. This is my 2nd year here. They've been here for 5-6 years now. So I met Joel, and Joel's kind of more solitary, kind of keep to himself, you know. And Connor introduced me. He's like, oh, dude, he's just like one of us. Colton's just like one of us. And Joel kind of looked at me. He's like, is he really, though? You know? And so I started talking with Joel, and sure enough, you know, before we know it, he's a big turkey hunter, a big whitetail hunter. And so we started telling stories and how we hunt. And it's funny, if you hunt the same way as another man, you guys will be best buddies in a heartbeat, you know? So and that's how it was. I connected with Joel. And then Rod was later to come in the season. And then eventually he pulled up, and we were all at the pub one night playing pool. And Rod came up, and he's more of a fisherman than he is a hunter, but he's starting to get into hunting. And once again, it was just like, first 5 minutes was kind of like, I don't know about this guy, and then after that, it was game over. So yeah, that's how the crew got together. So I'm basically the baby brother of it all. I'm the youngest. I'm the young buck of it. Joel is the old wise man. Joel's the oldest. Rod's right there, and then there's Connor. So I came in here late to the group, but when we started it actually as a company, I have kind of lit the fire under these guys. Me and Rod have lit the fire under those 2 to be like, all right, let's go. Come on, we gotta jumpstart this thing. So that's how we started and how we met.
That's awesome. And so what is that, you know, clearly there's a community here of people who come and work in the seasons, but, you know, what is that community of like-minded guys meant to you all?
So that's a great question. I would say our community here, if you come to Yellowstone National Park and you work here in the summer, you're going to want to be in this. You know, you're going to want to be in the outdoors. So at first off, it's basically people who are conservationists or naturalists or just people who like the outdoors. So that's our main giant community we have here, I would say. And then we start branching it off, right? If you want to start getting down to a level of people who love hiking. We have our hikers. We have our campers that just love camping. We have our fly fishermen or fishermen. And we also have our backcountry backpacking people, which some of those people are crazy because I don't know how they do it. Honestly, I don't know how you want to hike 15 miles and then, you know, hike another 15 out. I give them credit. Maybe if I had a fly rod in my hand, I would, but those people are great too. And so the cool thing about this place, though, is that it encompasses everybody together. And so it is purely amazing. I mean, it's so neat to see so many different walks of life in one area, but all have the same love and goal that we do here at the park. And so, you know, I personally think the group that we mostly as DFH stick around with is the fishermen, of course. So that's probably going to be our main group of who we talk to and attract. It's so funny, everybody starts talking to us and they're like, oh, you boys know what you're talking about around here and fishing in general. And we're like, I guess we know a thing or two, you know. So we really stick to them, and it's always funny. They don't know our names, but we know we fish. Like, oh, you're the fish guy. Oh, you're the fish guy. So, yeah.
You guys are all about community. We're all about community. I think, what is your dream of what the fishing and hunting community looks like?
Oof, that's a loaded question. I would say the dream for that would definitely have to be a group where there is, this is fantasy, I will say.
Right, yeah.
It's a goal we're going to try to achieve.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is a group where there's no bias, there's no judgment, because no matter if you come from a background of whether you hunt with mossy oak or you hunt with Sitka gear, or you know, you're only allowed to budget yourself maybe a couple $100s for that hunting season, or maybe you're allowed to budget yourself a couple $1,000s for that season. I don't care what it is. You know, we're not judging people based on what gear they use, or maybe even how they come and bring themselves in to begin with, because everybody's nervous when you come into these community big group settings. But what I really want is everybody to focus on the knowledge, because you cannot, in my opinion, you cannot pursue game, whether it is a fish in a river or whether it is a moose in the northeast woods of Maine. You cannot pursue game unless you know the animal's movements, what it wants to eat, where it wants to eat, when it wants to sleep. Basically just the history of that animal and the biology of that animal. Like, that is what we need to focus on as hunters and fishermen, because not only does it increase our chances of catching more fish, increase our chances of harvesting more game, but also too, it brings you into a more stewardship, conservationist mindset. And that's what we need to do here, I think, and we do a great job of it in North America as is, and other countries as well too, in the parts of the world. But it's all about knowledge, and in my opinion. And so, when you sit down and you talk to, let's say, the average fisherman, what he knows of fishing is putting a worm on a hook and casting it out and letting it sit and drinking probably 6-pack of beers here. And so that's okay. If that's what he enjoys and that's what all he wants to do, let that man do whatever he wants to do. That's totally okay. But he doesn't look at fishing like, when you look at bag limits, when you look at, like what it needs to happen in that aquatic ecosystem, he doesn't really know that, and that's okay. But he could be doing more harm than good. But when you start getting these hunters and anglers that really start educating themselves on the topics, you're going to see our systems become, stable or even more pristine than what we once saw it as. So,
and I love that idea, and it's also, taking that to the step of humanity too, and stewardship with each other, and taking care of and looking at, where people come from, and what they're about and what they believe in and what they value. And I think that stewardship piece is a big part of community, and growing a community of trust and one of no judgment and those kinds of things, which is, a lot of what, we're about, what we want to create in communities is that idea. So I love that idea, and it, through the outdoors and through hunting and fishing and all those things, it translates right into how we interact with each other. And so that's a cool thing. I love that idea about stewardship. That's good, because we need more of that.
We do. And it's, we're starting to see, more wild places just kind of go away, and we're starting to see huge impacts of what we have. I was just talking to one of my buddies the other day, and also, here, a little shameless plug for PGH Fly Company. They're out of Pennsylvania. We've been in collaborations with them. I was just talking to him a couple days ago about, what we're seeing in this world today. Like, for example, in Indiana, our ice fishing season used to last like at least 3 months, maybe 2.5. Now our ice fishing season in Indiana is maybe a month at best.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's just me.
Right.
And I started ice fishing when I was 5 or 6 years old. And I've already seen that changes from me being 5 or 6 years old till now. And so people, it just take a step back, be present. And that's what the outdoors does, I feel like, to everybody, is it makes you feel present, makes you reconnect, and makes you be like, hey, life's not that bad, but we need to focus on some stuff, so.
All right, so we're up here in Yellowstone, shifting gears just a little bit. We're coming up here. We've been up here for a couple days. We're coming up here. Let's plan a trip. Let's live plan a trip with Coltin. Coltin, where are you taking us if we're up here for a few days? What are we doing? Where are we going? Where are we hanging? Where are we fishing?
So let's go to the first most
Guide
important
Coltin.
topic.
Yeah.
Let's go fishing.
Yeah.
So, it depends if you guys are more still water or if you guys are more river guys. We could choose from there. We could branch off from there. For example, I'll throw a couple rivers out. Sadly, right now, as we know, and hopefully everybody knows back home, some of the rivers here are getting closed due to the weather, which is good for trout safety. But if they weren't, let's say the Gibbon River is by far probably the best river in the park, I'd say. Has the most diversity, and it holds a lot of fish. Plus, too, you're hiking through some beautiful parts of some high alpine forests with river corridors going through it. Big boulders, big pocket water, which is fun. Another river, too, of course, is the Yellowstone River. Flows north out of Yellowstone Lake towards Montana.
We drove by that. It confused us completely.
Yes.
We thought it flowed into the lake. We were like,
What's going on?
What is going
What's
on? We're so
happening?
confused.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. It's one of the lakes in our lower 48 that flow north. And so when you look at it at first, you're like, why is it going that way when it should be going that way? Like,
Yeah.
what the heck's going on?
Right. That was that was a little mind-boggling for us. We're
Yes.
like, wait a minute, what the hell? Yeah,
Exactly.
It was funny. It was.
So the Yellowstone River is great because, as I was talking to you guys earlier or yesterday, the Yellowstone cutthroat is on average in the park, I would say anywhere from 10 to 15 inches in the rivers and high alpine lakes we have here. But here in the big lake of Yellowstone Lake, they get big and fat quick. And so those big cutties will come into the river to spawn. And so you'll have a chance to chase them better on a fly rod in the river than you do in the lake. So it's another great, phenomenal fishing spot if you really want to catch a pretty stud of a cutthroat. You know, Yellowstone Lake's a great fishery too. Early season, you guys could cast offshore, do pretty good with the lake trout that are coming up to spawn, as well as the cutthroat as well with conventional gear. If you can chuck a fly rod out there with a streamer, be my guest, because sometimes it's windy, but if you could do it, you can get on them. But we go to high alpine lakes, for example. We have Cascade, Grebe, Ice, great fisheries, all native fish in those lakes as well. If you want to go to catch some big browns in the park, your Madison, which is going to be your best bet for bigger browns, Gibbon as well too. You want to catch a lot of rainbows in the park, you're going to be going to the northeast of Slough Creek, Lamar River, as well as the Firehole. The Firehole River is very good as too. Your biggest brook trout's going to come out of the Gardner River. That's your best chances for big brooks. Excuse me, you'll catch brooks anywhere in the park, any river. They're all over, especially in the northwest. But yeah, we even have some smallmouth in the northeast, which
Oh, wow.
which is cool for angling, but for ecosystem analysis, it's not that good. So that's a catch-kill basis. So if you catch a smallmouth, report it with the park rangers, and then also too, you must dispatch the fish.
Wow. Do they wipe out the trout population?
They do. So smallmouth are a very ferocious predator. I love those little bronze footballs because they're an awesome fish to fight for.
Right.
I do a lot of fly fishing for smallmouth back home in Indiana, and it's hard for me to be a bass angler. That's what I grew up doing, was bass angling, to kill a bass, because I'm like, it's a catch and release, fish. We look at it, but we do need to harvest bass as well too. But they do diminish the trout populations. They're hardier than trout, and they're meaner. I mean, if a trout's bigger than a smallmouth, it's going to eat it. A fish is going to eat anything it could fit it in its mouth. But on average, a smallmouth will pummel a trout.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, yep.
Do they attack them like an orca? Do they like take off their fin?
Yeah.
And, like, eat them to the
Yeah, so
bottom?
they if they can't fit them in its mouth, the smallmouth will literally just like kind of start butting up against it and just beating it up.
Oh, really?
And yeah, so I mean, I have seen videos, not me personally, but I've seen videos online of smallmouth just like you'll see trout rising on something and the smallmouth will rise on the trout.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, that is crazy. I've never seen that. Is crazy.
Wow.
I've never seen
Right,
that before.
yeah.
But that's what we fish for in the park. There's so many other options too here in the park. Like, I would suggest too, if you guys come here again, like I'm sure you guys have already done, just do your stuff, like do your research of the area and the park and the water, because there's so many hidden gems here in the park. You just got to really dig down deep and find them. But for places to camp, for example, I know you guys are in the Madison, right?
Yeah.
So Madison's a great campground. I've had a lot of friends and family enjoy it there. We just wrote an article on the DFH, shameless plug. Wrote an article on the DFH I did about campgrounds in in Yellowstone, the top 5 that I personally feel as. So at home you guys could go check that out, and I'll give you guys a little bit of rundown of what I have there. Indian Creek Campground, which is in the northeast side of the park. It's up by Mammoth area. That's a beautiful campground. It is very primitive, but you are secluded, super quiet, peaceful. There's also Indian Creek that flows through there, and the Gardner River flows right there too, and you guys could walk to it. So that's nice to camp there. We have Fishing Bridge RV campground, so if you guys have any RVs, anybody at home has RVs, that's a great place to go. A lot of sites, water hookup. That is the most, what I want to say, civilization we have here, is the Fishing Bridge RV campground. Then you got Bridge Bay campground, which is pretty. Right now there's 2 giant bull elk that are there, studs, I mean absolutely studs, that live there year round until the rut kicks in, and then they go find the herds and go find the females. But they're always there. Wildlife there is crazy. You're right by the marina. So the marina was actually created just after World War II. There's a huge recreation boom out here in the West and all throughout the United States. So they dredged out where the marina is now. They dredged that out and started building the marina. So that was another post-World War II big boom project here for the park. The campground's there, it's beautiful. There's a couple other campgrounds and such around here too, Well, those are the kind of top ones, I'd say. If you go for lodging, for example, we're here at Lake Lodge right now. Lake Lodge is great. I will say it is pricey. They do know that is the only lodging in the area, so they could definitely upcharge on that. It is beautiful, though. I personally have stayed in the cabins here. They're cool. They're nice. Lake Yellowstone Hotel, which is the oldest building in NPS history.
Oh, wow.
So that's pretty cool. You know, this park was established before NPS was even created. So park was established in 1872. This NPS was created in 1916.
Oh, wow.
So that was created in 1893 was the hotel. And this was, I think, 1902 or 1901 was the lodge. But so those are some of the local areas that we're in right now. And then go up to Mammoth. Mammoth has their own hotel, and Old Faithful has their own lodge as well. So yeah, those are some of the lodging opportunities that the park holds. There are some other ones as well too, but those are kind of the bigger main ones, of course. So let's see, fishing, lodging, camping. Eating, yes. We all need to eat. We all need to eat. So the best in the park, I would say, that I've known of is the Lake House restaurant. So Grant Village, if you get out of the lake area, you take a left like you're going southbound, you'll come to a junction, take another left at that junction heading south towards like the Tetons, like you guys came up the first day. You'll see a sign for Grant Village, turn into there, and it is a restaurant right on the west thumb portion of the lake. Absolutely beautiful scenery. The tacos are phenomenal, like absolutely to die for. Their seafood is pretty good too. They change up how they cook the salmon every time, but they do have salmon they import in, and also too lake trout from the lake itself was served there as well. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Here at Lake we have Wiley's Canteen, which is kind of like a burger joint. Good bison burgers, onion rings are phenomenal here. The hotel has their big old restaurant they have in there as well too. It's more of a fancier kind of setup, but I mean you could still wear whatever you want to wear. But you'll see some pretty high dollar people walk in there, and you're like, man, I don't think I could afford your shoe, let alone the dinner you're probably paying for.
Right.
The food is in there; it's pretty good in there too. It is pretty cool to say you've eaten the oldest building in the NPS history, you know. So, but if you go up to Old Faithful, they have some good little like burger joints and stuff like that. Their ice cream parlor in Old Faithful though is to die for. Big ice cream guy I am. Big ice cream guy.
Bingo.
So that's pretty solid there. And Mammoth has a couple eateries. Every joint will come to find here in the park is a lot of like burger, just like quick kind of food. Your more sit-down restaurants are going to be the Lake Hotel. I think there's a restaurant in Old Faithful's Lodge, if I'm not mistaken, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, so those are the places to eat here in the park. And I will say, if you guys are coming into the park again and you guys don't have any experience driving switchbacks or mountains, be ready, because the north entrance is crazy. The east entrance is crazy. If you go through Dunraven Pass, which is the northeast section of it, going up through there, it's crazy because you got about that much clearance of your tire and the cliff, and you're going off. And of course, there's no guardrail. So, but that's just for people back at home, just to be ready for it. Because my mom,
Flatlanders.
I'm from Flatland, Indiana. I just punched the mic, I think. I'm sorry. I'm from Flatland, Indiana. And when my parents came out here to visit me last summer, they were freaking out. My mom was like holding on to everything she could. She's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I'm like, it's okay, I got it. I'm driving one-handed, because I'm used to it now. And she's like, put both hands on the wheel. What are you doing? And so, but it's pretty cool. There's nothing like this else in the world. The beeping.
Seriously.
The beeping.
The reverse.
Poor animals.
Yeah, right?
It's wildlife out here. What are you doing? You're scared of it.
Right? Funny thing is, too, like, you think the beeping would mess them up, but literally bison, I've had a bison lay actually out here. I came out of work one day, I'm like, I need some fresh air. I open up the office door and I look outside, I'm like, I'm not stepping outside because he's not moving and I'm not moving.
That's cool.
So yeah, we have a bunch of mule deer bucks come out here during the early season with their velvet on, and it's pretty cool. But yeah, I think I covered,
Yeah,
I covered it, right?
Yep.
Cool.
That's good.
Well, let's wrap this up with the hot seat.
The hot seat.
Welcome to the TFW Hot Seat, where the name of the game is to answer the questions. And the prizes are... Wait, who said we have prizes?
First question is,
What in life are you celebrating right now?
Well, that's a good question. You know, I would say probably graduating college. Me personally graduating college.
Congrats.
Thank you. Thank
Yes,
you.
congratulations.
I didn't think I would do it, honestly. I don't know how I got to this point, but I'm here. You know, so I'm excited for that. Pretty accomplished with that. But mostly me personally, I'm very spoiled. You know, back home, and I'm an only child. But I've been very fortunate in life. My parents have gifted me a lot. Like, I'm very spoiled, and so like, when I do accomplishments in my life, me personally, I don't feel like it's for me. I feel like it's for them because they've given me so much, and it's, you know, I feel like I can never repay them back in a sense. You know what I'm saying? So yes, I'm celebrating it for me, but majority of what I'm celebrating for is my parents. Like, they had to put up with me for 22 years. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot to put up with me for, and a lot of time and effort and money put into me. So all of my kind of like kudos and pat on the back goes right towards them because they deserve it all. I just got through it. You know, I just did it. So
Good.
that's what I'm celebrating probably right now in my life. Also too, I just started dating this girl, and so that was pretty cool because thank you. I kind of like the next girl. I've dated some girls in the past, and I'm like, you know what, like the next girl I'm gonna date, like I'm gonna wait a while and I'm gonna date a girl because, you know, I feel like I'm getting old. I need to start looking down to settle down in marriage, you know, and that kind of stuff. And so I think I finally found the right one. Hopefully she sticks with me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that's another thing too, I'd say.
Good, good.
Well, make sure you soak in some of the congrats too. Don't give them all to your parents.
Yeah, you've done good.
You've done a
You've
lot.
done well.
I appreciate
for
that.
yourself. Yeah, that's good. Give us, our listeners, a piece of content that you're currently consuming. You know, vids, something you're reading, whatever. Yeah, anything.
So not doing it right now, but currently Netflix had just dropped the movie Mending the Line. I don't know, have you seen that movie? Phenomenal movie,
Great
I
movie.
thought. So it reminded me of River Runs Through It, a lot about that. So those are two kind of movies I would plug, is Mending the Line and The River Runs Through It. A book that I absolutely love, and I've never read a book faster in my entire life, was Sand County Almanac is what it is, by Aldo Leopold. Aldo Leopold was a huge conservationist, stewardship. He was born in Iowa and raised in Wisconsin. He basically set all the laws, and not all the laws, I would say more of just the way, the philosophy of how we feel about wildlife management and even some fishery management of North America. He set that in the stone. Like, he is the founding father of it all. So if anybody at home likes that stuff, Sand County Almanac is a great book for him. So those are the books and movies that.
Cool.
Good.
I know Rob will.
Yes.
Rob will love
Our
that
buddy
book.
Rob will eat that up.
I'm sure he's probably already read it, to be honest with you.
I don't know.
Yeah.
He's been pretty in deep with his own
Yeah.
endeavors in education, and now that he's retired, I'm sure he's looking for something to read.
That's right.
So, Robbie, you better get on that. What is one of your favorite fishing memories?
And that's a great question. There's so many. You know, you could go from a personal standpoint, or you can go from people
You
you
got to
bring
pick
out.
one.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
just one.
That's hard. It's hard to do. My one though is definitely going to be my coworkers here. Like I said, I'm an only child, so all the friends that I make them really tight because, you know, I don't have that sibling connection. So I'm like, you guys are stuck with me. Yeah, I'm sorry, but you guys are stuck with me. So I brought them out. Excuse me. I brought them out fishing. They've never caught trout before. So Sion I brought him out the Yellowstone Lake casting offshore, caught his first cutthroat trout, and I taught him from the basics of how to cast a spinning rod to, you know, what lures and all. You guys knows how it goes, all the stuff. So that was probably one of my favorite memories. Maggie, who was sitting in the office right there, she had never fly fished before or caught a trout or anything. So I taught her how to fly fish, and seeing her pure joy on her face when that little tiny brook trout rose on my stimulator, which I'm you big
Hey.
hey, your stimulator, see? I thought about it. Rose on a little tiny stimulator that we were using. It was in one of the high alpine lakes that we were fishing here, and seeing her just be like, "Oh my God!" I mean, the brook trout was this big,
Yeah.
but I mean, he just hammered it, and he came out, and seeing the joy in her face and joy in his face, and there's countless other stories I could be going on and on about, but those probably right now are my two favorite because I feel like I got those two addicted. I know I got Cyan addicted, but Maggie, she's coming around. She's going to be addicted here soon. But
That's great.
But
Yeah. One of the things that we've talked a lot about with other guests, and just something that we firmly believe in, is that idea of the next generation of fishermen coming
Yes.
up. So the fact that you're young and you're getting other people involved in it, that's awesome. That's good memories. That's good stuff
Yes.
that you're
Thank you.
doing. Love that part. You, speaking of being young, give us something that by the time you're 40 or 50, that you look back on that you're going to be happy you achieved, or something that you're going to be wanting to say, I did this.
I would love to, no matter where I end up career-wise, would love to look at a parcel of land, whether it be a meadow, a forest, a river, a lake, whatever it is, and say, this lake was absolute crap, or this body or this forest had no deer or turkey in it, you know, and now you could look at it and be like, holy crap, there's animals everywhere, wildlife, there's fish everywhere. I would love to be able to say that I was a part of that. Like, you know, my brain was some of the brain action that worked into putting that together. I also would love to be the guy that people look at and be like, he is the guy that knows a lot about the outdoors. But when you ask me, I'm like, me, I know a little bit, you know.
Right.
But it's just like I just want to be, I want to be that next Aldo Leopold. I want to be that next Bill Dance. I want to be, you know, that next guy from Pennsylvania, that from Penn State, the Joe Humphreys. Yeah, want to be him. Like that is just the type of figure guy I want to be. That is what I aspire to be. And you know, I always would say, like, just be present and always reflect, because I'm only 22 and I feel like I shouldn't be giving advice, but I'm gonna say it anyways, I guess. But it's just like every time I've learned about a situation, I've always been reflecting. Whether it's a fishing trip, hunting trip, school, life, whatever the case is, work, you get done with your day, and if you can sit and reflect about it, that is when you learn. In the moment, it is all chaotic, and it's like, holy crap, there's 1,000 things happening, and you know, I got 1,000 sticks in the fire burning at once. But when you sit back and reflect, it's like, that wasn't that bad. I could do more. Like, I could do more. And so always be present, reflect, and just take time for yourself. You know, take time for yourself.
I love that. I love that advice, because you can get bogged into, no matter what age you are, you know. That's been one of the blessings about what I have in doing this, you know, GFW with Ed and 20 years younger. I'm learning a lot from him, you know what I mean? And so I don't think age has anything to do with giving advice. I think there's things that we can continue to learn, and reflection's such a huge part of that. You know, being a teacher, I can't tell you how many times I hand back papers, tests, whatever. Kids just look at them and they just chuck them in their bag, and it's like, wait, let's look at it at least,
Exactly,
right? Yeah, like what
exactly.
happened? What, you know, that's how you learn, right?
Yes.
That's the only way you learn, is through reflection. So I love that. That's great advice.
What is your definition of community?
So I would say community is a group of like-minded people that come together, and you know, you don't have to have strong beliefs in it, but you have to have at least a little belief in it to come together, to plan, to engage, and to bring others into your own community as well. So, for example, you know, with fishing, it's a fishing community that men or women will, you know, bring themselves together as one, and will learn from each other, but also too, we'll just have fun and just, you know, just be able to get out there and just make friends. So.
Good.
It's awesome. So this last segment is what we're calling the conversation between guests. And so we have a question from a former guest who is Robert Betts at Cutthroat Fly Shop down in Du Bois, Wyoming.
Okay.
So you should get down there and check it out. Great fishing around there.
Definitely.
Great dude.
Great dude. But his question to you is, what is good in the fishing industry, and what could the fishing industry be doing a little bit better?
I always like starting things off with like either the harder part or the part people don't want to talk about. So let's go with the bad things first, and we always end with good. So the fishing industry as a whole, I believe the bad is our catch and release. Like, there are certain times we do need to implement catch and release, but when you start looking at the population dynamics, and especially in ponds, in certain species like bass, for example, that people have a very cultural approach of being like, this fish needs to be caught and then released. We cannot eat these fish. We cannot take them out. But when you look at the population dynamics of a pond, for example, you do need to do, you know, harvest of a largemouth bass or harvest of a smallmouth bass, because we set these bag limits in place for a reason. Like, we have to take these certain amount of fish out of this certain amount of time. So I would say that the fishing industry really needs to focus on more of harvest, not harvest, but just harvest a little bit. Harvest, your limit every once in a while, because catch and release can do more damage than good for the population of fish in a certain body of water. I would also say too that maybe, and I hate to say this because my wallet's going to cry when I say this, but maybe move a little quicker towards non-toxics of lead, for example, of the fisheries. Out here, we can't use lead, of course, but back home in Indiana, you could chuck pounds of lead if you wanted to.
Right.
So it's going to hurt the pocketbook for a little bit, but it's going to be better in the future. And, people will adjust to it. We will make adjustments to it. So I say move away from the toxic lead, move away from strictly catch and release, be a little more moderate with it, So that could really help a fishery, and especially too ponds. A lot of people I hear talk about their ponds, and they're like, oh man, like my bass are stunted. My bass are stunted. I'm like, because you have 80 fish in an acre pond. Like, it's just not going to equate out. Like, if you want a 4-pound bass, take some of them out, because it's going to open up food, forage, and habitat for them. But I could go on and on. But let's go with the good now. The good is engagement. You guys are a prime example, and I'm so happy you guys reached out to us to come out for engagement. You guys are breaking down the barriers of what is the stigmatism of fly fishing, for example, because people hear fly fishing like, oh, that's just rich snobby guys out on the river.
Right.
It's not anymore. It's just like how conventional fishing is. You guys bring in everybody, and so that's great. I really think the fishing industry is doing well with that. I love also too how the fishing industry is moving towards more of a knowledge-based, information-based kind of outdoor recreation activity. It really is. We're starting to see the average fisherman increase with knowledge, and that is only going to benefit not only us, but also to benefit the outdoors and wildlife and fish as well. So those are kind of I think the pros of what's going on in today's world. So
That's great. What is your question for the next guest?
So I was thinking long and hard on this one, and it was either going to be, the question that I have for them is, what is your definition of a trophy fish?
Like
Good.
Because there's a lot of definitions when you ask a lot of different people.
Yeah.
And also too, the question, what do you want to call that?
The alternate?
Honorable mention.
question,
The honorable mention question would have been, what is your definition of an angler? Because
Good.
that's another one
Okay.
too. So, but I like trophy fish, so we'll go with the trophy fish.
Okay, good.
Awesome.
Good.
Yeah.
Nice. Well done. Well, Colton, thanks. This has been a great conversation. Tell our listeners, where can we find the Degenerate
Fish
Hippies? Fish Hippies. Yes.
So you guys could find us on Instagram. You guys can find us on YouTube and Facebook as well. We have our own website, so it's www.degeneratefishhippies.com. And so if you go to our website, we have all of our links for our socials there as well. But I can't thank you guys enough for having us on and being a part of this, and hopefully some more future collaborations with you guys later down the road.
Heck yeah, this
For
would be
sure.
awesome.
Yeah.
We got to get all the guys together and
Hook
go
it
out
up and
fish
do
somewhere.
some massive fishing. Yeah.
Yep,
Go attack
exactly.
a
If
river
you guys
with
come
all
to
the boys.
Indiana, I could take you to Lake Michigan, do some Lake Michigan
Sweet.
fishing.
That.
Sweet.
So,
Absolutely.
Cool, man.
Cool.
Well, this is awesome.
Thanks
We'll
for
talk
being
soon.
with us,
Yep.
man.
Thank
Great
you,
job.
Thank you.
Eddie, another great conversation.
That was a great conversation and in a beautiful location.
Can you believe we were sitting on the shoreline, basically, of Yellowstone Lake?
It was awesome. I mean, it
It
was
was amazing.
It was almost hard to focus on Colton. Sorry, Colton, with the beautiful view behind him, out looking over the lake.
Right. Yeah, it's funny, when we were driving up there, and I knew we were going to Yellowstone Lake, and it's been so many years since I've been there that I couldn't believe how big that lake is. The vastness that is Yellowstone National Park, but even just the size of the lake is huge. So it was, such an incredible kind of like awe-inspiring. You're just like jaw-dropping at some of the stuff we saw. But yeah, that was a fantastic conversation. It's refreshing to hear the next generation kind of fishermen coming up through, and to see a group of young guys so invested in doing right by the environment and fishing and hunting, and giving me as an older guy some stuff to think about that I never really thought of. So that was definitely a learning experience for me in terms of the wildlife biology aspect of it that Coltin was talking about. So it was really cool kind of to get in some of that information and understand that better.
Yeah, I mean, he's a wealth of knowledge. I think sometimes when you come across somebody who's got that little bit of a it factor, I feel like Colton's kind of one of those guys, and is going to be something in the world of wildlife biology and encouraging people to get into the wilderness, however they're going to be able to do it, whether it's, like he says in our conversation, of just doing it with a $500 budget or doing it with a $5,000, $10,000 budget. I think, he's great at encouraging and making people knowledgeable in what's going on in the wildlife. I think it was really exciting to see, and he makes it approachable.
100%. His passion and his knowledge is deep, and to watch him so joyfully do what he's doing and what they're doing, and the belief that they have in it is really cool. It's fun to watch. So that was a great conversation with him. Glad we got to connect.
No doubt. Can't wait to get back up there and connect with him, and then connect with the other guys over there at GFH, and get out to where they're located in their hometowns and fish some new water across, the eastern United States for the most part. So it'd be cool to continue to collaborate with them and work on stuff together, and continuing together to encourage people to get out into the great outdoors.
Indeed, dude. Great connections. So can't wait to do some stuff with them.
Yep. Well, another good one in the books, man.
Absolutely, brother.
Looking forward to talking to you again soon.
Sounds good, bro. Love you.
Love you too, man. Bye.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening. Make sure to visit our website, guysfishingweekend.com, to check out the GFW merch, sign up for our newsletter, and learn how to get involved with the community. We appreciate you spending even a little bit of your week with us, and are glad to have you along on the journey. Stay legendary and happy fishing.